Happy Thanksgiving, Packers fans. Welcome into this all-new episode of the Pack-A-Day Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. I try my best every day to say thank you for being here, making Pack-A-Day part of your daily routine. But on Thanksgiving, I just want to take an extra moment to really appreciate all that you guys do to support this channel. And it doesn't always have to be memberships or anything like that. Just showing up, watching, liking, subscribing, doing all those things. Again, just allowing me to talk Packers 365 days a year. I always say it's a dream come true. Still have to pinch myself every day that I get to do this for a living. And that's all because of your patronage, your support, your viewership. And it's everything. So I cannot thank you enough. You guys truly get to choose who gets to do this on a day-to-day basis and talk about the Packers. And without you guys, it would not be the same. It would still be a labor of love. I would love doing it no matter what. I say all the time, I'd probably talk into a microphone if nobody was listening. I've done it before, right? But it certainly makes it that much more cool when we have such an amazing group of people that follow and support the show. So from the bottom of my heart, in all sincerity, thank you so incredibly much for making this channel everything that it is. I hope you have a wonderful, safe, and happy Thanksgiving. And, capped off, of course, with a Packers victory over the Miami Dolphins, which, of course, is what we're going to be previewing today. I'm excited to break it all down. We're going to go over the injury report, the potential inactives and call-ups for this game. We'll go over our keys to the game, our predictions, and everything like that. Before we get there, want to tell you about Autograph because I will be chatting at halftime. Again, Packers Dolphins halftime. As soon as that halftime hits, as soon as the final whistle blows in the first half, head over to Autograph. If you haven't downloaded it already, it's easy. Any app store has it. The Autograph app. Use code Pack-A-Day to sign up. It's totally free. And then once you're there, just join the live chat. Start asking questions, and I'm going to start responding to them right away. So if you need somebody to talk to vent to hopefully there's not frustrations, right? Hopefully you're just excited about how much the Packers are winning by a half, whatever it might be, head over to Autograph at halftime, and I'll be there chatting. Also exclusive content there. I put up a exclusive video earlier this week, kind of breaking down the current linebacker situation in Green Bay. So you can check that over there when you download the app as well. Also, I can't tell you enough positive things about my time working with Habish and Rotier already. Just like the Packers have an all-pro lineup on the field, the Habish Law Firm has an all-pro team in the courtroom. If you've been injured, let the reliable injury attorneys at Habish be your legal linebackers, ready to back your claim and get your compensation that you deserve. When you call Habish, you're going to talk to a lawyer directly. Just give them a call at 800-242-2874 or 800-2HABISH. You can also visit their website at habish.com. Habish and Rotier, national reputation, hometown service. Today's injury report, once again, sponsored by Habish and Rotier. Out for Green Bay: Jair Alexander, Edgerrin Cooper, and Romeo Doubs. 3 players will for sure be gone. And we basically knew this already, right? This is not a surprise. We knew this basically as soon as the 49ers game ended. This is not coming out of left field. Alexander, Cooper, Doubs, all not going to be available for this game. 3 players are questionable: John Fitzpatrick, the tight end, Isaiah McDuffie, the linebacker, and then Josh Myers, their center. Now, interesting differentiators here. So Fitzpatrick and McDuffie were listed as limited participants in practice on Wednesday. These are all simulated and guesstimated, if you will, but Fitzpatrick and McDuffie would have been limited on Wednesday. It's a step in the right direction. Remember, they would have did not participate on Monday and Tuesday. If they could go, that would give Green Bay a 3rd tight end and a 4th linebacker and would really give them some potential depth in this game. So that would be huge. Josh Myers was a full participant in practice. So it seems like he's probably going to be good to go. And hopefully he has no issues and can be able to get through the entirety of the game. But all 3 of those will be worth monitoring as we get to the inactives an hour and a half before kickoff. Fitzpatrick and McDuffie probably seem a little bit more like the true questionable ones. Again, my expectation is probably that Myers goes based on being a full participant on Wednesday, but you never quite know. And sometimes things flare up right before the game and they have to make those changes. So we will wait and see. Fitzpatrick and McDuffie, just kind of going back to that for a second. If no Fitzpatrick, then you've got Tucker Kraft and Ben Sims. You could call up Messiah Swinson from the practice squad if you want. He's the other tight end on the roster, so they do have an option there. If Isaiah McDuffie can't go, you're limited to just 3 linebackers: Tyron Hopper, Quay Walker, and Eric Wilson. That's it. There's nobody else available. So that would be an interesting situation for Green Bay. If Myers is out, they'll shuffle the line. They still have some depth, although this would be much more interesting, right? There's no Jordan Morgan in this situation. So if Myers is out, my assumption is that Elton would still go to center. Sean Ryan would be at guard. Zach Tom would be at one of the tackles. And you would also have still Rasheed Walker at tackle. And then you'd have an open guard spot. And kind of going into the season in that scenario, I would have just expected, all right, that's Jacob Monk's spot. Jacob Monk was inactive a week ago, like a healthy scratch. Like there was only two healthy inactives last week. Yeah, Kitano Ladapo and Jacob Monk. Monk was one of them. So maybe Kadeem Telfort, who they put in at guard in the garbage time last week. He did do a lot of guard in minicamp and OTAs. So maybe Telfort, I don't know what they would do exactly in that situation. They could put Monk at center. They could put Monk at center and then go with Jenkins and Ryan. I think that's less likely because in that situation, you probably want a more experienced center with all the calls and the checks and things like that. They could move Zach Tom into center and put Zach Tom at center, Jenkins and Ryan at guards, and then have Rasheed at left tackle, and then either Telfort or Dillard at right tackle. That would potentially get you your best five out on the line and put that, the incoming player, whether it be Telfort or Dillard, at their more natural tackle position. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, right? But this is an interesting situation. It would be the first time where they're missing two offensive linemen if Myers couldn't go in this game. So again, hopefully not the case, but will be worth monitoring. For the Dolphins, out Tyus Bowser, Kendall Fuller, Anthony Walker Jr., and questionable is their starting left tackle, Teron Armstead. So Walker's their starting linebacker, Fuller's their starting corner. Tyus Bowser has been playing a bunch on the edge for them. They're already missing three basically starters on that team, and then Teron Armstead could be the fourth. So Armstead for the Dolphins, Fitzpatrick and McDuffie for the Packers are probably the ones to truly monitor as kind of game time decisions and whether or not they're active or inactive in this game. Now, as far as the likely inactive players or call-ups for this one, really the only call-up that kind of makes sense for Green Bay would be if Fitzpatrick can't go, calling up Messiah Swinson. I think you would still want a third tight end, right? So if he can't go, I think Swinson would be up and then Fitzpatrick would be inactive. There's only 4 inactives that are needed. Jair Alexander would be one, Edgerrin Cooper would be one, Romeo Doubs would be one, and then that fourth one, in my opinion, is either going to be an injured player like McDuffie or Fitzpatrick, or one offensive lineman, meaning if Myers is good to go, it's probably either Monk or Telfort or Travis Glover in that situation, right? Or Andre Dillard. So it's going to be one of those guys. In all likelihood, it's probably Jair, Cooper, Doubs, and then again, either McDuffie or Fitzpatrick, or they may need one more if they call Swinson up and then they have to deactivate Fitzpatrick in that situation and still need either the offensive lineman or Isaiah McDuffie in that situation. So a couple different ways that they could go, but 3 of the easy ones, obviously Jair, Cooper, and Doubs, and then we'll have to just kind of see how the injuries affect the rest of that. But if they need healthy scratches, probably one of the offensive linemen would probably be the way to go as that fourth player. Packers are currently 3.5-point favorites going into this game. I like Green Bay's chances, but let's kind of go over the keys to this game and what ultimately could decide it for Green Bay and Miami. Before we get there, I was going to go over this after the keys to the game, but I actually think it makes sense to do it a little bit beforehand. Here's what's at stake in this game. For Green Bay, quite frankly, it's not a ton when it comes to like odds of making the playoffs. Now, if they want any chance of winning the division, I know this isn't a divisional game or whatever, but you kind of got to win a huge chunk of your games, if not all of your games, the remainder of the regular season, right? If you want a chance for that division win and probably a bye in round 1, depending on what the Eagles do the remainder of the year. But so that would matter. But for as playoff odds go, if the Packers win, they're around a 99% chance of making the playoffs, 98 to 99, somewhere in that range per the New York Times playoff simulator. So they're right there, like they're on the cusp of being playoff bound, right? If they lose, it goes all the way down to 91%. So they are still heavy favorites to be in the playoffs. And they're probably going to be a wild card team no matter what. It's probably not going to be a situation where they get eliminated. They're probably going to go in as the 5, 6, or 7 seed. So on paper right now, from a odds standpoint, it doesn't change things a ton. It does if you want to try to win the division. It does if you want to try to get the 5th or 6th seed instead of the 7th. It does if you want to separate yourself and not have to win games at the end of the year. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm just saying from a probability standpoint, it doesn't affect it all that much. You're still in the 90th percentile in likelihood to make the playoffs, whether you win or lose this game. For the Dolphins, it's quite a bit different. They win this game, they have a 52% chance to make the playoffs per the New York Times simulator. If they lose, it goes down to 24%. So you're almost talking about a 30-point swing in this if you are Miami. So this is a massive game for Miami. Of course, Green Bay still wants to pick up the win for a variety of reasons, right? And then for Miami, they're also kind of looking for that signature victory. They really don't have it. The Rams are the best team they beat. They beat up on some really bad teams. They beat New England twice. They beat Jacksonville. Like I said, the Rams, there was one other the Raiders were the other team that they beat. So they don't really have that signature win. This would be a signature win for Miami, but a lot at stake for Miami's playoff hopes in this one. Not quite as much for Green Bay. All right, let's get to those keys for the game. Number one for me is who handles the short week better. It's very short rest. For Miami, they also have travel on top of it, right? So that makes it harder. Thursday road games usually are advantage to the home team, all right? But you have a couple other nuances here that go into this and how they handle the short week. Number one, you've got the hot weather team going to the cold weather team. How much does that play a factor in? Maybe nothing at all, maybe something. I know the Dolphins are hell-bent on proving the world that they're not going to be afraid of the cold and that they're going to go out and perform at a high level. We'll see. And it's not like it's -10 or something like that. It's going to be in mid-20s. It's going to be fine. They got all the heaters on the sideline and everything. Like, these guys will be able to go out and play. I don't think it's going to play a major factor in this one, but you never know. And the Dolphins and Tua have not been good in cold conditions previously, so it's at least worth noting. The other thing here, where I think it actually does play in Green Bay's favor, is the fact that the Packers are the youngest team in the NFL. The Dolphins are the oldest team in the NFL. And usually, if you're talking about a short week of rest later in the season, a lot of wear and tear, these bodies are getting more banged up the older that you get. You're talking about a team that may not recover quite as quickly as a team that's the youngest team in the league. Now, on the flip side, the Dolphins have all the experience in the world to know how to prepare for these games, get ready for them, and be ready for a cold weather game, all those things, right? So this is kind of the ultimate battle of experience versus youth. Hot weather team going to a cold stadium on a short week. Like, there's just these little X factors all over this game. I think it just makes it a little bit more fun. But whoever handles this short week better and handles the elements and handles all the narratives that go along with it, I think is going to have a massive leg up in this game. So I'm looking forward to seeing who handles this better. I think Green Bay's got a great chance. Again, they're at home. They're in the cold weather like they want to be. To me, advantage Green Bay, and they have the younger team coming off the short week. So, and at home, like, all those advantages go in Green Bay's favor. We'll see if it plays out that way in the game. Number two, and maybe the biggest thing that I'm going to be looking at from an X's and O's standpoint as this game goes along, is how Jeff Hafley and this defense decide to attack this Dolphins offense. It, to me, is a bit of a pick your poison. I don't think there's a perfect 1A game plan. I know what I would kind of probably lean on a little bit more. And I talked to Mike Wall on the Pack-A-Day radio show. We didn't have a podcast time this week because of the Thursday game and some stuff like that. So was able to get him on the radio, but we were kind of in lockstep in pressing on the outsides, getting those corners up on those wide receivers, not allowing them the free releases, but playing a lot of too high safeties on the back end. If you're not going to go too high safeties, I think what you have to do is play Xavier McKinney back. And if they're going to challenge those deep balls, he's got the ability to range sideline to sideline and maybe break some of those up or maybe even pick one off, right? So if you're going to sneak someone down in the box, I think it needs to be Evan Anderson in this one and allow Xavier to do the heavy lifting on the back end and allow him to be the guy that's ranging from sideline to sideline. Now, it's a bit of a bummer because you're going to have to play him really far back because you don't want him to get out-angled or, have the opportunity to get outrun, right? So you're going to keep him back further. It's something that the Giants did with him in the past, but you really have to start by being unbelievably cognizant of Waddle and Hill on the outside. Just cheat code speed, just Madden speed that usually isn't real and is absolutely real in this game. And if you don't make sure that you are covering them down the field, it's just Tua's going to hit them every time. And it's going to be a 60, 70-yard gain, probably a touchdown, right? So how you handle those wide receivers and keeping two safeties over the top or keeping McKinney way back and letting him range is going to be very important in this game. You also don't want to allow them to get those free releases and get the intermediate stuff going because Tua's just a machine over the middle of the field. And if you're getting them free releases and they're over, he's just going to get the ball out of his hands and he's going to let them run. And they can run really, really fast right past you. So you've got to be careful with how Valentine and Stokes and Nixon and those guys are covering. It's a very tough matchup for any of those guys, and not having Jair really stings against the Dolphins in this one. So there's that. The other thing is that Achane and Mostert and those running backs are not exactly easy to go against either. And if you're playing the two safeties back, that makes it that they're more likely to run the ball and more likely to have success running the football. And then if they do, then you got to bring that safety down, and now you're susceptible to the wide receivers on the outside. Now, this is all a bit theoretical, right? And this is what Miami wants to do. To be clear, they haven't done a great job of this all season long. There's been deficiencies in the Dolphins offense, but it has been clicking better as of late, albeit against some not great football teams. But this is going to be a really big challenge for Green Bay. And how Jeff Hafley and company go about attacking this Dolphins offense, can they bring pressure? I don't know. They will. They'll undoubtedly bring pressure from time to time. I think they're going to have to try to confuse Tua. The defensive front is in for its biggest game of the year. They've got to stop the run without that extra safety in the box. And they have to make sure that they're getting after Tua, because you cannot allow him time. So this is a big time game for the defensive front, which is not words you'd necessarily want to hear, right? Because that defensive front has not exactly been dominant through the course of the season. But maybe, just maybe, this can be their breakout game. Number 3, just to go along with all of this, tackling and yards after contact, or yards after the catch. You can't let Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle get ahead of steam, because there's gone, done, over. And you have to make sure that if you do allow a reception, you're immediately getting them to the ground, easier said than done, and that everyone's rallying to the football and taking good angles, especially your safeties. The safeties have been borderline phenomenal this year. But Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney are going to have to take great angles, make sure they get those guys to the ground. We saw McKinney have an issue with DeAndre Swift a couple of weeks ago, right? You can't have that happen in this game. They're just going to be gone instantly. So really great angles, rallying to the football and tackling and making sure that those yards after the catch and yards after contact aren't there. Going to be a massive key for the Packers in this one. Number 4, we kind of talked a little bit about already, but just getting that Packers pass rush going. And I'll be interested, can you get there with 4? We've been talking about it all season. You've got to find a way to get there with 4 better. You got to force them, first of all, into some obvious passing downs. Then when you do, you better be ready to get after the quarterback. Because even in some obvious passing downs this year, they haven't got there with 4. And then that means you got to blitz. And then if you blitz, you're one-on-ones on the outside with these unbelievable wide receivers. That's not a position that you want to be in. But if you can't get there with 4, you can't just let Tua pick you apart. That's where I say it's kind of a pick your poison. So the pass rush in this one is going to have to be better. They're going to have to get after Tua, and they're going to have to make sure that they're making plays and making him uncomfortable. Otherwise, it's probably going to be a long day at the office for Green Bay. Number 5, what can Josh Jacobs do on short rest? 26 carries a week ago. Now, I guarantee you, I promise you, he's saying to Matt LaFleur and company, give me 26 more. I guarantee you it. I would be stunned if you would be having any other mentality other than that. He wants the ball that many times. He probably wants it 30 times. But you got to be careful. This is still a veteran player who just had a huge workload a week ago. I don't think you want to give him another 26 in this game. So what can he give you? How comfortable are you with giving him, a certain amount of carries? I think 20 touches for Jacobs is probably that on the high end. That's probably where you want to cut it off. And I don't think they actually have like a true cutoff of like, what are you going to do? If he's at 20 carries or 20 touches and you're at 3rd and goal from the 1 and you want to hand him the ball, you're going to be like, sorry, we hit that 20 touch mark. No, there's nothing like that. But I do think they're going to rotate in Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks a little bit more, just to give him a little bit more of a breather and not just to run him into the ground. It would be also a little bit different if this was your normal Thursday where you kind of get that mini bye after this one. But now they go to Detroit next Thursday. It's just a normal week of rest, right? So it's not like he gets this extended period off after this game. So I think they'll be very cautious and cognizant of his number of snaps and number of rushes and number of touches. But what that is and how they can utilize him and how well he looks after a big workload last week, I think that's going to be a key in this one as well. Number 6, we talked about the linebackers, right? Now maybe McDuffie plays and you end up with 4. If McDuffie doesn't, you only have 3. Even without it, even if Green Bay had a stable of 30 linebackers ready to go, right? To me, this Miami offense is going to give Green Bay all the eye candy in the world. They're going to give him all the disguises and the sweeps and the motions and the orbits and everything you can imagine. And they're going to try to get those linebackers to take false steps, which especially Quay has been known to do. So this is going to have to be a super disciplined game from the linebackers. They're going to have to hit their drops, get back, read and react, rally to the football, and tackle really well. I think there may not be a more important position group in this game. Arguably, the pass rush is more important, so that's probably them first. But after that, to me, it might just be the linebackers. It's going to be a huge game for them. They're going to have to stop the run again without probably that safety in the box for a good chunk of the game. This is a big game for Quay and company. And you have Quay, you have Eric Wilson, who may have to fill in as the full-time nickel backer. You have Quay, Wilson, and Hopper, who may need to be your full-time base defense because you don't know if McDuffie's going to go, or even if he can, is he on a snap count? Like, those are going to be interesting questions as well. I think it's a huge game for the linebackers, and Green Bay is really beat up at the position right now. Number 7, who can handle the swings in this one? Because to me, I think this has the ability to be a back and forth game. Green Bay goes up 7-0. The Dolphins fire back 13-7. Packers go 20-13. Dolphins go 27-20. Packers go 30-27. Like, I could see this going back and forth all day. And I think whoever handles the swings better, stays calm, composed, collected, doesn't let it get to them, I think that's going to give them an advantage in this one. So handle the swings kind of like a game of poker, no limit. Those swings will break you. If it breaks you in this one, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. You want to be able to just stay composed and keep playing your brand of football, and the team that can do that better throughout all those swings going to be in a much better position. Number 8, red zone offense, red zone defense. It's been a bit of an issue. Green Bay was 5 of 5 last week. It's hard to repeat that week after week, right? But I think Green Bay is going to move the ball between the 20s, and now can you get 7 points out of it each time? That's going to be massive. For Miami, I think Green Bay is going to, and I know, just plug your ears. I know you don't want to hear this. I think Green Bay is going to play a little bit more bend but don't break, because I think they kind of have to in this one. And if they do that, that means you're kind of allowing some of the stuff in between the 20s. And then once it gets inside the 20, everything's condensed. You don't have to worry about Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle beating you over the top for a 70-yard touchdown anymore. The sidelines are there to help you out now. So I think they may condense it at that point, be willing to give up some of those yards, hope they make a mistake along the way. But the red zone defense is going to have to make sure that it's a bend and not a break. Because if you give up the 10-play, 8-minute, 80-yard drives and it ends in a touchdown, those are just stabs to the heart, right? So red zone offense, red zone defense, always key, but I think even more key in this one. Time of possession. Generally not a huge time, like just go score points, right? If it takes 1 minute or 15 minutes, I don't really care usually. But in this one, we saw how much the ball control and the time of possession affected the 49ers last week, and Green Bay just had it huge in their favor. If Green Bay can do that again, I think advantage Green Bay, but also keep Tua in that Dolphins offense cold over on the sideline, not allowing them to get back in the game. That's a recipe for success. And vice versa, if Miami's controlling the clock, and again, if Green Bay's playing that too high safety and Miami's just taking the simple stuff and continuing to paper cut you and get first downs, they can keep Green Bay on the sidelines. And now Jordan Love and this offense are just chilling on the sideline super cold. So time of possession is going to be really important, and you just don't want to allow those 10, 12-yard touchdown drives, right? Those are absolute killers. And whoever does come up with better time of possession, I think it's probably showing that they're staying balanced, that the other team is going to be on the sideline more, and I think is going to have a real opportunity to win this game. 10 special teams, you get conditions, you get weather, you get a wonky Thursday game, 2 really tough teams. Special teams is going to play a factor. It usually does. Maybe we get a big Keyshawn Nixon kick return for a touchdown or something like that. He's sort of due for one. I don't know. Maybe Jaden Reed, he's looked a little bit better as a punt returner. Daniel Whelan needs to have a big game. Brandon McManus needs to continue to kick well. But I guarantee you there's going to be a time and a place where special teams plays a major role in this one. Number 11, who steps up at wide receiver with Romeo Doubs out? I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to say Dontavian Wicks has a breakout game this week and his best performance of 2024. Now, that's not super hard at the moment because he's had a tough year so far, but I do think Dontavian Wicks is going to take advantage of the opportunity, run with it, get a bunch of playing time, gain that separation. I think he's going to catch everything his way. I think we're going to see a breakout Dontavian Wicks performance and hopefully a step in the right direction for him for the remainder of the season and just kind of going and balling out and tearing it up the rest of the year. Last but not least, number 12, the explosive plays. Both of these teams have the ability to put big runs together, put huge passes together, and be explosive and dynamic at any moment in special teams, offense, and even on defense. Like turnovers are a big thing here too. So whoever comes up with the amount of big plays that they need, like I think Green Bay could come up with 4, 5, 6 big plays in this game. I think Miami could come up with 4, 5, 6 big plays in this game. I'll just say this, the team that can prevent those big plays from happening, I think probably just wins this game, quite frankly. So these are 2 big play offenses, and I expect them to get theirs, but if there's a defense that can shut it down, it's going to be a huge advantage for that team. So my 12 keys in this one: who handles the short week best? Packers defensive matchups, kind of pick your poison. Tackling and yards after contact, make sure you're rallying to the football. Can the pass rush get there with 4? What can Josh Jacobs do on short rest? What does the linebacker situation look like in this one? Can you handle the swings? Red zone offense and defense, time of possession, special teams. Can Dontavian Wicks step up and fill in for Romeo Doubs? And the big play offense on both sides. We've also got Bears-Lions on Thursday on Thanksgiving. So another game to kind of keep an eye on there. Should be a fun one. That's the early game. We're on, as much as I cringe to say, like, we're kind of Bears fans in this one. You need to get Detroit some losses in the division, just losses in general, right? So as painful as it is, as you're trying to, stomach down all your food on the day, it's not going to be super digestible if you're trying to be a Bears fan, especially against Detroit, right? But if you got a spare second, I guess kind of cheer for Chicago a little bit in that one. My prediction for Packers 49ers, or sorry, not 49ers, Packers Dolphins. Packers 30, Dolphins 27. Packers win in overtime. A 3-point win in overtime to pick up the win. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really fun game. I think it has the ability to be one of the games of the year. And I'm going with an overtime win for the Packers, 30-27, with a walk-off field goal kick by Brandon McManus. Why the heck not? Actually, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. McManus kicks the field goal on the opening drive for Green Bay. They win the toss, get the ball first, go down, kick the field goal, and then have to weather a Miami Dolphins offense that's trying to go down and either tie with a field goal or win with a touchdown. And the defense gets the win at the end in overtime. That's my prediction on this one. 30-27, Packers over Dolphins. Enjoy the game, everyone. Shout out to our Hall of Fame and All-Pro members: Most Hated Minnesotan, PJ Wynn, John Wild, Brandon Paletta, Jennifer Wright, Boom Handle, Donna Lee, Lori Lord, Baby QB, David McCluskey, Donald Decker, Alex Wong, Arnaldo Espinoza, Peter Rataka, SoCal Pack, Jay Zimmerman, B. Brown, Puerto Rican Packer, Dan Guessford, Step Keat, Love and Football, and Dylan Pat Scott. Appreciate you guys a ton. Happy Thanksgiving. Be safe, be healthy, be happy. I will see you all very, very soon. Go Pack Go on this Thanksgiving Thursday night edition of Packers Dolphins. Until next time, and as always, and especially today, go Pack Go.